It's 8 p.m. and here are our top stories in 90 seconds.
Unfortunately, it's really difficult to gauge the success of the lottery just by looking at the numbers.
Colorado's vaccine lottery is now over, with the final comeback cash winner announced today. But did the program have any effect on our state's vaccination rates?
The key question is what would have happened in the absence of introducing this vaccine lottery.
The state and federal governments are trying a new strategy, hoping to reach Colorado's least vaccinated counties.
We need to go to community by community, neighborhood by neighborhood, and oftentimes door to door, literally knocking on doors to get help to the remaining people protected from the virus.
As the Delta variant becomes the main virus strain in Colorado, experts warn everyone to keep up their guard, even if fully vaccinated.
Part that's, of course, concerning is that Delta variant is highly contagious, like more contagious than the standard COVID.
Plus, All-Star Week kicks off today, and downtown Denver businesses are hoping for help as they rebound from the pandemic.
You're able to barely break even, keep going through this time, so I'm super excited. I have no idea what to expect, though. It's going to be huge.
Denver Mayor Michael Hancock hoping the game will serve as a sign that the city of Denver is back.
Denver is open for business, so for those folks who have not been downtown in quite some time, over a year maybe, because of COVID, we are inviting them to come down.
Good Wednesday evening, and thanks for watching Denver7 News on Local 3. I'm Jessica Porter. Colorado announced the final winner of its vaccine lottery program today. The program started last month as a way to convince more people to get the vaccine. But did it work? Denver7's Sloan Dickey looks at the effectiveness of that program and what the next step is.
Now, the moment you've all been waiting for. We're going to introduce our $1 million winner.
Sorry, Colorado, if you're watching this and didn't get the call, you didn't win the vaccine lottery. The last $1 million went to Colorado mom Heidi Russell.
4 kids are expensive, so that's a good head start for them. I will now.
But did the lottery have an impact on vaccines in Colorado? So far, at least 70% of eligible Coloradans received at least one dose. But overall, just over 52% of the entire state's population is vaccinated. Enthusiasm started to flatten out in April, well before the first vaccine lottery winner was announced in early June. Ohio was also a state that tried out the lottery system. A study by the Journal of American Medical Associates concluded there was no evidence that a lottery-based incentive in Ohio was associated with increased rates of adult COVID-19 vaccinations.
Unfortunately, it's really difficult to gauge the success of the lottery just by looking at the numbers.
But some experts say the numbers don't tell the whole
The
story.
key question is what would have happened in the absence of introducing this vaccine lottery.
As Colorado increases vaccinations, the smaller and smaller pool of unvaccinated residents are increasingly hostile to getting a shot. Glenn Mays at the University of Colorado School of Public Health says a lottery is one of many options to incentivize vaccines, but Colorado still has a long ways to go.
I don't think we're yet at a vaccination coverage level that gives us the kind of protection we need.
Now, as the vaccine lottery ends, he says Colorado still is well below the threshold needed to reach herd immunity.
Likely we're going to need to be up in the 80% or higher level, especially given the new variants that are out there.
New techniques across the state and country are being deployed, including door-to-door outreach discussed on Tuesday by President Biden.
Now we need to go to community by community, neighborhood by neighborhood, and oftentimes door to door, literally knocking on doors to get help to the remaining people protected from the virus.
And now that the state's multi-million-dollar push to get Coloradans vaccinated has concluded, organizations are taking it upon themselves. UC Health announced last week that it will be offering a $500 incentive for every employee who is vaccinated through mid-August. It also said that it's possible that vaccines for COVID-19 will be required come later this year. Jessica?
Thank you, Sloan. Colorado was ranked 3rd in the country for the number of cases of the more contagious Delta strain of coronavirus. Overall, the state reported 500 new cases of coronavirus and 5 deaths today. 340 people are in the hospital with suspected or confirmed cases of the virus. Well, the vaccine should help with the more contagious variant, but it's not completely foolproof. Denver7's Gary Brode spoke with an Arvada couple who got the virus despite being fully vaccinated.
This was the first concert Chris Biondini and his wife have been to since the pandemic began.
It was so much fun. You know, we've been on lockdown for over a year.
It's in the sea of country music fans where Biondini believes he and his wife got COVID.
We think we may have gotten it was at Country Jam up in Grand Junction. It was a 3-day country music festival. You know, there's 100,000 people there each night.
If the Arvada couple did get the virus at the music festival, they wouldn't be the only ones. The Mesa County Health Department is reporting an outbreak of 7 cases at Country Jam the last weekend of June.
I thought I was protected.
The Biondinis tested positive days after the music stopped. A surprise to them since they've been fully vaccinated since April.
I was like, why did I go through the hassle and the trouble?
They don't know what strain of the virus they have, but chances are good it's the Delta variant.
Delta is here.
Dr. Michelle Barron is the Senior Medical Director of Infection Prevention at UC Health. She says this is more proof the Delta variant isn't going away anytime soon.
The part that's, of course, concerning is that Delta variant is highly, highly contagious, like more contagious than the standard COVID the standard COVID virus that we saw at the beginning, like actually 60% potentially more contagious.
In fact, Colorado is seeing some of the highest rates of the Delta variant anywhere in the country.
It may be that it just has more virus production and that's how it spreads faster, but I think we don't have the full answer for that.
Dr. Barron reminds us the vaccine still works. While it may not stop the variants, it can help if you do get it.
If you look right now at who's being hospitalized, 90% of these people have not been vaccinated and are still getting pretty sick from it. So being vaccinated, even if you're young and healthy, keeps you from ending up in the hospital with these variants, which are not to be messed with.
Other than one rough night, Biondini says he and his wife are doing fine and will end their quarantine on Thursday. I'm Gary Brode for Denver7.
Gary, thank you. All-Star Week has officially begun, and businesses in downtown Denver are hoping for a big boost as they rebound from the pandemic. Many of them spent the day getting ready for what's expected to be a big weekend. Denver Mayor Michael Hancock said for many people, this will be their first visit downtown in more than a year.
Denver is open for business. So for those folks who have not been downtown in quite some time, over a year maybe because of COVID, we are inviting them to come down.
Officials and business owners are asking everyone for patience during All-Star Week. Many hotels and restaurants are still struggling to hire enough workers. There's a healthy debate over how much money the All-Star Game will actually add to Colorado's economy. The city estimates it could be more than $100 million. Historically, the impact has been much lower. One analysis found no economic impact from All-Star Games between 1973 and 1999, including the 1998 All-Star Game at Coors Field.
As a typical rule of thumb, economists like me say, take whatever the city tells you, move the decimal point one place to the left, and that's actually a pretty good estimate of what Denver can usually expect.
Well, 2021 could be the exception to the rule. The study's author told us any large event is welcome after the economic drain of the last 16 months. A closer look at the numbers paints an empty picture. 1 in 3 eating and drinking spaces in downtown Denver were vacant as of April, and 1 in 6 retail spaces were also vacant. The downtown economy lost 20,000 jobs in 2020, the first time in more than a decade that the workforce got smaller. There are help wanted signs everywhere, and yet tens of thousands of people are considered unemployed. Economists say it isn't that people aren't willing to work, it's that they don't want to do something they hate for less than a living wage, which means those willing to do unglamorous work can suddenly demand more money. Denver7's Megan Lopez explains.
It's just about opening time at Cadivella Woodfire Italian Restaurant in Central Park. If you would have dined here a year and a half ago.
Pre-COVID, a bunch of professional servers.
Of course, yeah.
But no wine, all that kind of good formal service. And then that got gutted.
The pandemic led to shorter hours, which led to layoffs, which led to desperate times for owner Elise Wiggins.
It's going to continue on Sauté.
And when it was time to hire staff back.
We cannot get staff in. We can't. You know, I'll put 14 contacts out for 14 people to come in and interview. and I have 0 show up.
Some businesses are offering bonuses, higher pay, and other benefits just to get people in the door.
So come here, baby.
Wiggins increased her pay ranges by a full $7.
So these guys can make amazing money, and still, it's like crickets for those applicants. Crickets.
So she and many other business owners are turning to teenagers to fill their staffing shortages, like 16-year-old Sarah Fuller.
I really like hosting a lot because I like talking to the people when they walked in.
Sarah is making $14.77 an hour plus tips. Not a bad shake for a high school student. Money.
I definitely spend some of it on clothes or stuff I want.
She spends a bit of and saves a bit of.
I have a savings account, so I put a lot of it into college.
Since she wants to go to law school someday.
Thank you for calling Catabella.
In recent years, teen employment has dropped significantly, but a report by Drexel University predicts a big rebound, with more than 32% of them joining the workforce. For Wiggins,
but these kids are just rocking it.
The makeup of her staff is a little younger these days.
They're just sponges. They're not jaded. They're not tainted. They want to make money.
But it's because of them she's able to keep her restaurant doors open.
I would just be dead in the water if it wasn't for these kids.
Megan Lopez, Denver7.
And some argue federal unemployment benefits had a negative impact on labor. Several states are letting those benefits expire before the federal government pulls the plug. And others, Colorado included, are offering incentives to get people back to work. Jack Buffington teaches supply chain management at the University of Denver. He says the labor shortage and the problems it's caused isn't so much about where you live or how much you can get from the feds. It's who you work for.
One thing that's missing in this story is that the story comes out that the entire supply chain's broken. Every company is struggling with stuff, and that's not true. There's some companies that are managing their labor and their supply chains better. They're being more strategic. They have more resiliency. They have better conditions. And so when circumstances like COVID and these issues happen, they're able to weather the storm. All you're hearing about are of the companies who are getting impacted by the cycles. And that's just an example of a poorly run operation.
The U.S. added 850,000 jobs in June. The unemployment rate was 5.9%.
Unfortunately, we're not seeing anything positive that continues in that sense.
Coming up at 8, Hurricane Elsa making landfall in Florida. As first responders searching for victims in the condo collapse announce a switch from rescue to recovery mode.
I'm driving 3 trucks myself to Texas because after this experience, I can't trust someone to do it for us.
Plus, a family finally gets their stuff back. It's all of its stuff. After a mover disappeared with their things. But they're still out $15,000 and fighting to get it back.
It looked like a river, literally, was flowing through my house of sewer water.
And a man asked Contact Denver7 for help after he says a utility company's mistake destroyed his home.